Welcome to the second InfoX webinar. It's 15th of every month. So I'll hand it over first to Mr. Rajsekharan for updates on Business Clinic, followed by the much awaited webinar talk by Mr. Rajesh Srivastava. So first over to Mr. Rajsekharan for the Business Clinic updates.
Ram, you're going to, can I share this?
Yeah, I'm just doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, good evening. Thank you so much to all of you for joining. I think, well, I'm just going to take you through some of the things what I told you last time. The process, the consulting process, what we do is we request people to express their needs in a specific format, which is there in the website. And then we map it to the expert advisor and we take clarifications from the advisor, go back to the client, and then schedule a online session with the expert advisor for about a couple of hours. And then at the end of the consultation framework, we're able to come out with a good amount of action points, which we get it ratified by the advisor and share it with the client. So this has started working and it's working pretty well. Yeah. Now, in our range of services, quickly I'll take you through. I think you have to mute.
I think it's better to mute everybody.
Yeah, just mute Ram. You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, see, there are several services. Ram, just quickly do the click down. One is revenue growth, followed by cost reduction, strategy execution. These are several areas which we help our clients: portfolio management, raising capital and funding, mergers, acquisitions, innovation, R&D. Last time we had a very interesting talk by Dr. Subramaniam. Sales in marketing, market research. Yeah. And then in procurement, distribution, logistics, retailing. It's quite a big bunch of areas what we work on. And we find that we have a good width of advisors who can help our clients very well in all these areas: analytics, finance, accounting, operations. And some of the new things we are looking at, adding to this list in the next few months to come. Okay, and just a quick glimpse of our advisors. Okay, this is the Business Clinic team. One is Anush, that's me in the center, and Ram. Three of us run this Business Clinic with the limited abilities what we have. These are advisors: Ambika, Omeo, Atul, Chan, John Stephen, Krishnan, yeah, Manoj. You can see the areas in which they are all Muthu, Rajan Srikant, Rajesh Srivatsava, Ramesh Shankaran. They are all experts in their own ways. Ram, Sridhar, Subir, Dr. Subramaniam, Mr. Vaidiswaran, Virendra Sevak. So we have the areas where we can, it started off well. A quick point about highlights of what's happened. Our website is up and running. We have been able to, do it in a quick time. The last 1 month, I think May 15th was the time when we inaugurated. After that, the website is up and we have done all the commercial arrangements, what is required, your GST, accounting, all that has been done. Social media posts have commenced. We've done about 10 consultations. I mean, some of the areas in which we are getting, inquiries or we have done consultations are, leverage competency. People are in a particular area for a long time. They want to move out and do something, grow a stagnant business, explore adjacencies, trends in the economy. People want to know what's happening in the economy. Is the business in which I am operating is going to do well or not? Managing under current constraints. How do I keep my customers happy? How do I fulfill their demands? There are several pipelines, inquiries in the pipeline. So it's interesting. I think with the help of all our clients and our advisors, I think we can do a good job out of this. We are quite optimistic about it. Yeah. So next is some of the social media posts. I think this is what we started with. an announcement of business clinic, giving some details of what it is. And after this, these are all some of the social media. I mean, this has been completely done by Ram and Anush. So this is coming out in all in the LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, etc. So this is how we are promoting, and also the most important thing is through word of mouth. So we get a lot of good reviews. So finally, this is what I told you about last time. It's a part of business clinic. We also have formed a small initiative called the InfoX, where we want to share knowledge with as many people as possible. And we had last time Dr. Subramaniam talking about it, and this time we have Rajesh Srivastava. We want, please mark this date in your calendar, which is 15th of every month. Come what may, we will meet 15th of every month. So please come, and every month we'll have an interesting topic to present to you. And we'll try and get as much well-known people on the dais as possible. Yeah. So with this, I think, like this is last month, and with this, I think I would leave it to Ram to introduce Rajesh, and then request Rajesh to take on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajshekharan. I now extend a warm welcome to Mr. Rajesh Srivastava. So Mr. Rajesh is very, very well known. I mean, I think most of us in the call actually know him. So in a way, he needs no introduction. Mr. Rajesh has been the man behind many of India's popular brands, especially the liquor brands. He has launched them in the market. He has built the brand for many of these brands. He was also the president and CEO of JK Helene Curtis, and he created the deodorant category, which he'll be speaking about in a few minutes. He has written a book which is receiving rave reviews. A lot of CEOs, a lot of COOs have commented on Amazon as well as to how how they have got a lot of insights from the book, and I'm sure he's going to be talking about that as well. So without any further ado, I'll just hand it over to Mr. Rajesh for the presentation. Mr. Rajesh, I'm just making you the host so that you can present. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Rajesh. Yeah, you'll just have to unmute yourself, I think.
Is my presentation visible?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
it is,
yes,
and we can hear you as well. Yeah.
Okay. Raj, that's what I called you, and thank you for inviting me. Thanks, Ram. And I knew many of the people today more as a client. I was with United Spirits, and I had the privilege of meeting many of you. And many of you helped me actually, launch brands which did surprisingly well in the market. So I also want to say one thing. I've done about 13, 14 webinars. But today is the first time I'm nervous because I have actually done it for young people. And here there are veterans, who are stalwarts, Chan, Raj. So I'm a bit nervous, but let me just share with you, let me just speak with you, and let's have a conversation. So this is about what I think, it's not about right or wrong, but this is the way I think, and I'm going to share that with you, right? So just a brief background about what I did, because that's where I will take off from. McDowell Signature was actually, the name was given by me. And whenever I look at McDowell Signature, I feel mighty proud. So friends, whenever you see McDowell Signature, just remember me. I can't tell you the story how the brand name came about, but there is a lot of inside part of it that we can talk some other day. So I'm going to share with you how my career was, and then I want to build on that why the future is bright. So McDowell Signature is one brand that I had the privilege of naming. Second is, you may be watching IPL. So Royal Challenge in the year 2000 was not doing too well, and I was given the responsibility for reviving it. So you see this logo here. Again, consumer insight. So one of the big ideas about, whether your future will be bright or not bright will depend on the business or the consumer insight that you have about the brand. So the consumer insight about Royal Challenge was that in India, you can't advertise alcohol brands. So how did we build brands? We built brands by having millions of events. So whenever there was an event, we made sure that our brand was present. Like if 5 people got together for a party, we had a bottle opener or let's say a glass. So when they sipped, Royal Challenge was written there. So we realized that we participate in events. So how can we leverage that? So then we decided to create a logo, which we put on the pack. This was in the year 2000, believing that if at all any event happened, they could take this logo and put it on that event and it will become an IPL event, right? Or it will become the RC event. So about 7 odd years, 2008, IPL came and this logo, the event, that logo that we had created went in there. So this is again based on a consumer insight, which I'll be building on. Third is again consumer insight. I was the first person who actually made Bagpiper. When I got the brand, Bagpiper was India's number 2. This was 1987. So my boss said, you handle it. And when I did it, I found it was number 2. So I went to my boss and said, sir, isko number 1 banana. We'll make it number 1. So he looked at me and he said, so who stopped you? Go ahead and do it. So we made it first India's number 1. And then a few years later, I went to my boss, and this time it was Dr. Vijay Mallya. And we said, we want to make it world's number 1. So he says, who's stopping you? Now, this context I want to actually bring down to Mr. Satya Nadella, who said the same words like my 2 bosses said. And we did make it. So the second lesson, whether you have good time or bad time doesn't depend on your boss or the company that you work in. It depends on you. Whether you want to create a good time for you is actually dependent on you. You have to have a dream. You have to have an aspiration. And once you have a dream and an aspiration, make it public. If you don't make it public, I don't think that's a dream. Dream should always be made public. So this is the second thing I want to make here. And again, based on consumer insight, why did we invest money in celebrity advertising? Your company works with cigarettes and I work with alcohol. Both are called sin industry. My consumer insight was that in a sin industry, and I'm talking now of alcoholic beverage, people don't drink people don't drink whiskey, they drink image. People don't drink whiskey, they drink image. So we, instead of focusing here, we focused here. This is what gave the image. So this again based on consumer insight. No matter how good the whiskey is, that will not work as much as the image. Consumer insight. And if you don't understand your business and your consumer insight, I don't think you can create mega brands. So this was about one part of the industry, which is alcohol. Then I moved over to, I was invited to be president of JK Helen Curtis, which is part of Raymond. Raymond is an apparel business, so I'll be taking that example today. And plus the second thing I wanted to say, future is never made by anybody. The world will never give you a future. You have to create a future, and future always comes disguised as problem. In adversity, you can create a great future. Why? Because what I have seen is that in this world, problems always, opportunities come disguised as problem, as it has come in COVID times. But most people are too busy looking at the problem and lamenting their bad luck, so that the opportunity goes away. Now, when I was invited to JK Helen Curtis, the company was in the same state. I think Raj and Ravi would actually resonate with it. Carew Phipson, way back in '89, was not in the best of health. It was a very shaky company, right? And I was there. There was a gentleman called Vinay Ma, etc., and we revived it. Why? Because we changed the rules of alcoholic beverage market. We changed the rules of the alcoholic beverage market. Before us, everybody was selling a lifestyle. But we were the first guys who said that we will not sell a lifestyle. We will sell solution to people's problem. That's how Gold Ribbon was launched. And in the first year, it sold 500,000 cases, right? We said good morning after great evening. So we changed the rules of that alcoholic beverage industry. And Mr. Chand, before us, UB Group had 5 companies, McDowell, Herbertsons, Carew Phipson. And so we were in UB Group called the 5 rupee company. We just didn't make any money. But after we changed the rules of the game and we launched Gold Ribbon, Blue Ribbon, Duet, people look forward to our presentation. And Mr. Gandhi, you would know, he was the most difficult person and the most, aristocratic. I'm using a mild word. He called me magician. because he says, whenever I meet you, you have some new ideas, right? So same case in deodorant. Deodorant industry, when I joined JK Helen Curtis, it was a company that was not doing too well. And to put it mildly, so you always have to use a positive word. The company had to be re-energized, and I was given the responsibility to do it. And it had a wide range of portfolio. So as a CEO, you can't open up battlefields on all fronts. You have to choose that one battle that you think you can win. And I chose deodorant for a very odd reason. And the reason was when I went to JK Helen Curtis as a CEO, the company was not doing well. And what do? The first thing is that you need to unlock capital wherever it is blocked. So I called my production guy and I said, get me the list of all non-moving items and in a decreasing order, the one that has largest quantity, not move for the longest time. So this guy came and he gave me a list. On that list was Park Avenue deodorant, 60,000 cans not move for 9 months or 12 months. So I asked this guy in Hindi, I said, "Kyun nahi move kiya?" The production guy looks at me, he says, "Sir, मेरे को क्या मालूम? इसके लिए तो आपको hire किया है." Right? So it's an insult. And what do? Either you lose your cool, or you actually look at the content, not the way in which it was delivered. Obviously, I was called there to turn around the fortune. And then when I started looking at it, I came out with a strategy. But here I changed the rules of the game. Before me, everybody was selling deodorant. I was the first guy who said, I'll not sell deo, I'll sell perfume. I will not sell deo, I'll sell perfume. I changed the rules. The size of that industry in 2002 was 66 crore. Today, it is 6,000 crores. Today, it's jumped almost 100 times. And why? Because I changed the rules of the game. And every single brand of multinational company have now started following what I said, including the elephant, which is Axe. They also say we've got perfume. What is the lesson? The lesson is that if you really want to create a future, it does not depend on good times or bad times. It depends on you. And you have to change the rules of the industry by not being competitor driven, but by being customer driven. Right? If I had been competitor driven and followed Axe, I would still be like that small ant. But why do you have to follow anybody? You have to follow your customer. And this is the second point that I want to say, that wherever you go, you have to change the rules of the industry, not because you need to, just for the sake of it, but because you have to understand customers' problem and solve it. That's what I did here. So I will be just talking about this also. And then I quit my corporate career. I wanted to give back. So I took to teaching. I taught at IIM Indore for 5 years as adjunct faculty. I taught retail management, brand management. I mean, almost everything that they gave me, I taught. And what I realized, everybody, is that when I was in corporate, I had a bit of an ego that I knew everything. And Mr. Chand, the sad story is that when I started teaching, I realized I knew nothing. And today, when I look back, it's almost 12 years, that what a fool I was when I worked in corporate. Mujhe really kuch nahi aata. That was just ego and arrogance. But today, thankfully, I've become more humble. And today, I think knowledge is much more solid compared to the frivolous knowledge, ye kar diya, wo kar diya. So I think that's another thing, that if you really want to make a career, then don't just do it. Teach. If only if you know that you can teach. And when you teach, then you really get a grasp of it. And then my students got into, various corporates. So I did this workshop for Mercedes-Benz in Bangalore. This is the digital leadership program for Mercedes-Benz, and they just loved it. And then Siemens, I've been doing for 5 years, Siemens. And this is on 21st century skill. One of the questions asked is, what is required to succeed in 21st century? That's what I teach their high flyers. So for people familiar with Siemens, they have a program called CORE, C-O-R-E, which is a 1-year program for high flyers. I have done for the last 4 years, the first 3 days where I teach them critical thinking, creativity, innovation, design thinking, and 10X, etc., etc. And then I share my thoughts in CII about various things. And these are the corporates where I have worked, done programs. And last but not the least, this is the book that I have written. It's called The New Rules of Business. And again, I just want to say this, although I won't use this forum. Everybody, there are big publishers. This is published by Penguin. In India, publishing houses like Penguin and all these people, they print one book every day. They print one book. In fact, if you go today on Twitter, Penguin has printed 3 bestsellers today. right? Every day they print one book, every day of the year. I am a first time author, totally unknown. But my book, the first print run of 5,000 copies has been sold out. It got released on 25th December. And by 15th March, it was totally sold out. Now they're going in for a reprint. What did I do here? Again, I changed the rules of the game. Authors by definition feel my job is to write. But I come from a background which is more corporate. So if I created Park Avenue deodorant or Bagpiper whiskey or Captain Cook salt, my job was not just to create product. My job was to create product and make sure that people used it and kept on using it. So here I've used all the techniques that I learned in marketing to do it. I've done almost everything, right? And today it is sold 5,000 copies. It is going in for a reprint, right? And I put my life's wisdom into this. Now, why again I'm saying this is that whether it is books, whether it is education, whether it is deodorant, whether it is alcohol, the principles remain the same, that you create your future. The world never gives you a future, right? So with this, I want to get to the thing. Okay. In the last 12 years, I'm a teacher. As a teacher, I show you a direction, but not what to look for. That you have to pick out. So friends, all of you are veterans. So let me just start out by sharing with you, what my view about thing is. So I'm going to share with you the 4 industries that I have worked in, right? One of them is alcohol, where I worked with ITC for the packaging solutions. Then I worked with Raymond. I did not work with the apparel division. I worked with the personal care division, but I'll talk about it because I have some view on the apparel business. So I'll talk about apparel business. I'll talk about FMCG deodorant business, and I'll talk about education, teaching, training. These are the 4 industries I worked in. So they are as different and distinct. One is lifestyle and one is sin industry. One is fashion industry. One is personal care and one is education. There are 4 different industries. So the variety is large. Now, if I had to get into, currently I only deal with this industry, which is education. So I'm going to share with you that if I worked in all these 4 industries, I think my future is the brightest. And this is how I go at. Now, take a look here. The future is bright, but the future can only be bright, to use a cricketing parlance, if you understand the pitch and the weather condition, right? So before we get into it, there was a conversation between Chand and Mr. Manoj. And the question asked is, how long will the hospitality industry take to recover? The time frame given is, I think, about 1.5 years. So the thing that we got to do is, we had to fight virus, then we had to fight fear, and now we have to live with the virus. So this is the new paradigm that I'm saying will happen. So if you want to create a future, first we fought the virus, we fought fear, and now we have to live with the virus. And whatever business we do, I think what we need to do, understand this very, very clearly, that this is becoming the new normal. The new normal is, whatever business you do, which is hospitality, FMCG, or education, one is health and hygiene is going to become the biggest thing. So whatever, screening will happen, hygiene will happen, you have to protect yourself and social distancing. So if we have to create a future, this you have to embed, you can't fight it. This is the new normal for doing business. So whether it's hospitality business, anything, or FMCG, or when you do consulting, keep this as the new normal. And why am I saying it? If you go back to, 9/11, what happened? Before that, whenever we traveled, we did not have that security issue, right? It was not of the kind that we have post 9/11. But post 9/11, taking out your jacket, in fact, in some airports like Dubai, I think I'm exaggerating, and please remember I'm exaggerating, except your undergarment, they make you remove almost everything. And they scream at you and they really do all kinds of terrible things to you as a security. Now we have learned to live with it. That has become the new normal. When the Taj and the Oberoi, when the terrorist attack happened in Mumbai, before that, I think I could just walk into Taj. But today you can't walk into Taj. The security has become the new norm. So even what I believe is, and one must take this into account, that there are many diseases for which there is no vaccine and there's no solution, malaria being one of them. So there's no guarantee that this is going to get, is going to go away. It is going to be there. And this, according to me, is going to be the new normal, at least for 12 to 18 months to 2 years, because so we need to incorporate it. Next, if this is the new normal, my way to look at this is that we have to understand, like I said, the pitch, because if we don't understand the pitch, we'll get out. So the analogy that I wish to draw out is that you have this thin layer of ice. So when you see this ice from a distance, you feel that it is safe to actually walk through or to skate through. But if the layer is thin, then you will go through, because the ice layer is very thin and below that is water. So to understand whether the layer is thin or thick, what you got to do is, which every organization does, is to do environmental scan, and I'm calling it trend lines. So these are some of the trend lines I have picked up that you need to understand. Now, this is not exhaustive, but this is just, let's say, indicative. What I got to do at my age is that, and most people will refrain from crowded places. They will social distancing, health and hygiene will become the new concern areas. Frugal spending, whenever there's uncertainty, people conserve cash and postpone buying decision. If you conserve cash, you'll postpone buying decision. And of late, I have seen there is a proclivity for embracing digital lifestyle, because things have come to a grinding halt. So how do you shop? How do you entertain? I think, how do you pay? So people who were resistant to digital lifestyle have become much more open. These are some of the trends that we got to understand. And against this, I will now start, because I won't have time. So I'm just going to take a few of these things. So what are the things that I'm going to take compared to business? One is postpone buying decision, frugal spending and conserve cash. Now I'm just taking these two things because people aren't buying, right? Automobile has been in a big, has seen sales plummeting right from before COVID hit. So I'm going to start from here, just taking these two things and other ones as we go ahead. So here's an example, Hyundai. In 2007, there was yet another big assault, not a pandemic, but it was a financial virus that hit the world, and it brought the world to its knees. And when the financial, when the financial crisis hit the world, the first guy, one of the industries that got impacted was automobiles, and Hyundai car sales plummeted. What did Hyundai do? It did a research and it came out with the fact that it's not that people don't, their sales had fallen. So what you would see if sales have fallen, that people don't want to buy cars. But that is a wrong conclusion, because when they spoke to people, what they discovered is people still want to buy the car, but the problem is that they are scared. Scared, what if I bought the car and I lost my job? How will I pay the EMI? And then once they understood the consumer insight, what was the decision? They de-risked. So the scares was, the risk was in purchase decision, so they de-risked it. How did they de-risk the purchase decision? With a simple thing. They came out with a scheme, buy Hyundai, and if within the first year you get a pink slip, just return the car, you don't have to pay any more EMIs. Once the consumer got confidence that they won't be, they won't have this burden of an EMI, and if they lose their job, the car can go back, the sale went up by almost 20%. And the sale did not look down. Today, Hyundai is looking during this pandemic thing to bring back this scheme. What is the first perspective? The first perspective is what is obvious to the eye, which is data, may not really give you a solution. So just looking at the data and, coming out of the scheme that, give more schemes or buy sales will not happen. So the first thing that you have to do is consumer insight, which I had spoken about. So if you want to create a good future, speak to the customer to understand what their pain points are. Don't ask them for solutions. They don't have solutions, but understand what their pain point is. Their pain point in this case is, my job is at risk. I feel uncertain. Can I do the EMI payment? If you take these three, let's say, voice of customers, you come out with the solution of de-risking purchase decision, you get a solution. So if you want to create a future, speak to the customer, not to get a solution from them, but to get what are their pain points, and you have to actually come out with a solution which will either reduce or eliminate that pain point. Second, FMCG. Now, till now, I, with the kind of income that I had, and I thought I lived in an abundant economy. Everything was available to me in abundance. So in my house, I never had to stock up soap or toothpaste or anything. Whenever we needed it, it was available just right there, right at a store next to us. But when this lockdown happened, from abundance, we came to a scarcity. Scarcity, I just did not know whether we will get soap and toothpaste. We were scared, right? and we have to conserve cash at my age. Now, if I were, let's say, a company, Park Avenue had soap, I'm just taking an example of HUL. What I would do is, given that there is scarcity, there is frugal, and there is what we want is saving, what would I do? I would go in for a bulk pack, buy a pack of 4 and save, say, 30%, right? I would go in for a refill pack so that I don't have to waste plastic container and I get value for money packs. Now, Nestle, just to tell you, is now started coming out with refills. So they have dispensers. So if you have a coffee bottle, you don't have to buy the entire coffee bottle. You just go to the dispenser and you can dispense out 50 grams, 70 grams, whatever, 100 grams, right? So again, what do companies have to do if you have to create a better future? You have to actually adopt your SKUs, your stock keeping units, to meet with the current situations, right? So this is the second thing. Again, customers, these are the pain points. I can't save, I feel scared. I don't know whether I'll get my soap. I don't want to spend so much money. Now, this is what the pain point of the customer is. What is the solution? Bulk pack, so that you buy a pack of 4. So scarcity will not be there. You will have it. I don't want to spend money. Go in for a refill pack. Or if I really want to conserve money, go in for a small pack, right? So just look at the customer pain point and modify your pack points. Now, one was consumer insight. Now I come to the 4 businesses that I have been in, and I want to share with you how I would do it. So let's start with Raymond, or let's start with Signature. I think a whiskey is where I grew up in. Now, what do I look at is, I look at it as a very simple thing, that whiskey drinking will not go away. It is not going away in a hurry. What will happen is that people, instead of drinking at clubs, bars, restaurants, or pubs, they are going to drink at home. Drinking will not stop. So if I were an alcohol business, I would not be scared कि मेरा sale कम होगा. वो तो नहीं होने वाला है. The only thing that will happen is, because of social distancing, fear of drinking in a crowd because of contamination, health and hygiene, customers will move their drinking home. So the second thing that I would do is, I will follow my customer and go where they are drinking. So if they're going to drink at home, then what is it that I have to do as an alcoholic beverages guy? First, I have to make sure that alcohol does not get over at home. So till now, what were the pack size that was kept in at home? 375 or 750 ml, or at best 1 liter. But if the consumption of alcohol is going to happen at home, then I need larger pack size. I need 1 liter, 2 liter, maybe say 3 liters. So I need larger pack size to be kept at home. But if I go in for a larger pack size, uska problem kya hai? If it is glass bottle and I have a 2 liter pack and it is heavy to carry, and if it breaks, it's gone down the drain. So what do I have to do? The concern is, people will say, I want larger pack, but the concern will be, what if it is glass bottle and it breaks? So I need to go in for a large pack, but I need to not go in for glass bottle. I have to go in for non-breakable, like PET solution, for example. Number 3, if they're going to carry this 2 liter, they can't carry it in a mono carton, right? They require a handle. So I'll have to come out with a jerry can kind of a handle so that it's easy to carry. Now, I'm just giving you one perspective as far as packaging is concerned. Why? Because my thing is based on a simple consumer insight. People will drink. It shipped from crowded places to home. At home, if I make sure that alcohol never gets over, then I think they will consume more. And for that, I'm just giving you one element. There'll be several other dimensions. So packaging is what I would look at very, very closely, right? So if I look at packaging and I make that offer and I do it ahead of everybody, then I'm going to be the winner. Second, follow your customer. Just because PVR and multiplexes are closed, that does not, for God's sake, mean that people have stopped entertaining themselves. The entertainment has moved from large screen to small screen. So if I were, let's say, in entertainment business, if let's say I work with Netflix or Amazon Prime, I would be the happiest person. Even if I worked as a Bollywood producer, my job is to go to OTT platform and just create content, and that is what everybody is doing. And only the guys, there are many multiplexes who come out with this entire concept, in Tamil Nadu, I believe, some of these producers, some multiplexes have boycotted some producers. You can't do it. This is the new normal, right? So instead of fighting a trend, you have to join the trend and see how you can make the most of it. So the second thing that I want to do is that you have to follow your customer. And I want you to remember one thing. Businesses never die. Business models do. Businesses never die, business models do. Earlier, the business model was large screen. Now it has moved to big screen, small screen. Earlier, business model was crowded places, clubs, bars. Now it has moved in-house. So businesses never die, business models do. So if your business was geared towards distributing to bar clubs, that may get hit. But why you hung up on only your business model? Be concerned about the business and not your business model. Third thing. So we did this. This is how I would grow it. I'm just giving you one dimension. There will be several dimensions, but there is shortage of time. Second is Raymond. Now, just look at the pain points that were there, let's say in apparels, and I'll just go to women more than men. Now, what is the issue? What is the challenge with women going in for purchase? You will never find a woman going alone for purchase. There will always be one or two women who will go there. Their job is not to purchase. Their job is to actually give feedback whether this dress theek hai, nahi hai. So women actually need a feedback about the dress that they are buying. So they normally go in ones or twos, right? Now, what is the second problem that they have? So they need a feedback before they make a purchase decision. That is social proof. Second thing, what is the problem? The problem is they need to try out. What happens is when they need to try out, there is Zara. So they give you only 3 dresses to try out. The rooms are small, trial rooms. Each time you try out, you come out, get a feedback, then try second, then try third. And if all 3 don't work, then you go for another second round of 3, then another third round. Now, in that small trial room, trying out so many options is a pain, right? Now, this is the reason, right? Now what happens is, why not get technology into this? It's contactless. Let a person come into the store, and therefore I'm using these 5 technology: AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and then gesture-based technology, right? And then voice control technology. Now what happens is, there is this lady who comes here and there is a magic mirror here. All she's got to do is look at that dress and drag and drop on her, right? She is not in touch with the dress. The gesture actually drops the dress on her. The moment the dress comes on her, she knows how she looks. But the problem is not how she looks and whether she feels good in it. That's not a decision criteria. The decision criteria is, how does she look in the eyes of her friends? Now, what does this magic mirror do? It takes, so whichever she likes, she takes pictures of 3 of those pics and posts them on social media and gets a poll right away, review and rating, right? She does not have to go into that cramped space. She can literally try out every single dress, hundreds of them. Out of that, make a choice of 3, 4, 5, put it out on social posts, get a review and rating, and then take a decision. And then again, whichever dress she decides, she can actually make a contactless payments, that is e-payment. Now come and take a look here. Earlier, just before COVID, it was such a painful customer journey, right? You thought that you would steal, so you were given 3 dresses, cramped. How many can you try? Only 2 people can actually access and give you reviews and rating. Now, with all this AR, VR, MR, gesture-based technology, voice command, you have an immersive experience. So almost all the pain points of the previous time is actually disappeared. How? Why? Because now you have put technology. And just before, I think there was a conversation about hospitality industry, and I think Mr. Manoj was mentioning that although hospitality industry was looked upon as a contact for, one-to-one contact where you delivered service, now more and more technology will come in. And here again, in shopping or in retail stores where apparel is a thing, technology is going to come in. That is called digitizing your business. But more importantly, you have to use that technology which gives an immersive experience. And that experience today, in this case, is much better than what they had. And because they have a much better experience, therefore their ability to charge price premium goes up. So in this particular thing, use this opportunity to deliver an immersive experience and charge a price premium. Let's go to the next part, which is, let's say, so I looked at alcohol, follow your customer. Second is look at technology, how you can actually look at the existing pain point and remove and delete it and actually come out with a better experience, which is immersive experience, which is embed technology into it. And let's come to the third part, which is deodorant. Now, what is happening is large number of first time users are coming onto the digital platform. Therefore, what is happening, I'll just go to the teaching part before I go to this part. Now take me, right now I'm in teaching, right? And this is a story of Mercedes-Benz. This is at Bangalore. Now take a look at all the pain points that I had when I was teaching and doing workshop. For this workshop that you see here, this is in Bangalore. I had to travel. It was a 3-month workshop in Mercedes-Benz. I had to travel to Bangalore, stay in Sheraton in Bangalore, right? 3 days away from home, air travel, stay in Sheraton, and then I did this workshop, right? That is me at workshop. This is some exercise given to them, right? Look at the carbon footprint I created. Look at the airfare cost, and Sheraton 3 days stay roughly was a large amount of money, almost 40,000 odd rupees, right? And there was no value that was added to why the people came. None of this added value to these people's life. It was all incurred in carbon footprint and giving money away to somebody. Today, I do the workshop, for example, this webinar, and I don't have to travel. I don't have to invest 3 days. I don't have to share credit. All the money that is saved, right, is saved for the company. And here I'm creating value for them. And number two, when I did face-to-face workshop, only people in Mercedes who were at Bangalore office could come. Today, if I do a workshop for Mercedes, people from every part of the world can join in. So just take a look at me. Earlier, when I was teaching and doing training, I was constrained because I had to travel. I was constrained because every people had to travel and join my workshop or the sessions. Today, I don't have to travel. They don't have to travel. There's cost saved. And I reach out to almost the entire world. All the negatives have disappeared, right? Carbon footprint, the environment is better off. I'm saving money. They are saving money. And there is no loss as far as I can make out, right? So what has happened? And this concept is called value migration. Much before COVID happened, value was already migrating, right? Khan Academy, you would know, is already coming out of this fact that, you know, education can't be delivered face to face. There is so much constraint there. So what is value migrated? Earlier, the value was on physical teaching. Today, the value has migrated because my students are telling me and my companies are saying, my students are saying, I want to study anytime, anywhere on a device of my choice and even when I'm mobile. Why do you want to chain me? It is like when we watch television, it is called viewing by appointment. You have to view when that program is on. So youngsters are saying, why should I view a program when you want me? I don't want to be chained. So I want to watch program anytime, anywhere on a device of my choice and when I'm mobile. And that's what students are telling me. So the value has migrated to anytime, anywhere on a device of my choice and when I'm mobile. And that's what is happening. And all the negatives are getting this thing. So you have to remember and ask yourself a question. Are you operating where the value was, or are you operating where the value has migrated? Most of us keep on operating where the value was, whereas my customers have already moved. My youngsters, I'm not talking about the older profile of people. These guys are much more comfortable on a screen rather than on any other thing. The next thing that you got to look at is, if you want to create a better future, you have to understand where your value has migrated. Is your customer where the value was, or have they migrated? The next thing is distribution. Raj was in distribution, was in FMCG. What is the biggest problem and challenges that foreigners, MNCs faced, or Indian companies faced getting into FMCG? Was distribution. Why was Unilever such a potent power, or ITC in cigarette business? Distribution. Today, distribution is no longer the competitive advantage. Today with Amazon and with Flipkart, you can reach every single pin code. I can create a product single-handedly and I can do it. So the entire thing is, where is the, where has the customer moved? The customer has migrated instead, and these are the young people. What are these guys? These are time poor, cash rich people who are really strapped for time. They don't have the time to go shopping. So they want a shop which is 24/7, 365 days in their hand. Whenever they have a time, they want to shop. So the value has migrated from physical shopping to online, right? But if we continue to say, nahi yaar, I just need to distribute my product because that is what my strength is, I think gradually companies may become, redundant or irrelevant. So what you have to do is you have to understand where your value has migrated. And today, distribution being one of the core strengths by which Unilever and ITC protected their business, today it is no longer the thing. And just coming to the part, that was being discussed by Mr. Manoj and Mr. Chand, this is my small take on hospitality. The new determinant benefit. And this is from an outsider customer viewpoint. I went to 5-star hotel for the luxury, for the image, and for the location, and the service, etc. But in the revised scheme of things, when I go, the first important point will not be luxury. That's not very important. It will not be service. The first thing will be whether it is safe, whether health and hygiene is actually maintained there. So what is happening is, which is called the determinant benefit. Earlier, it was location, luxury, service, brand name, image, etc. But today, the new determinant benefit is, does the hotel follow the safety, health, and hygiene standards? So even ITC today has started looking at it. So if you look at Airbnb or OYO, they have started saying that these are safe rooms that we are creating for you. So let's take OYO. So what do you have to do? When the rules change, because earlier the determinant benefit was location, luxury, service. Now it is safety, health, and hygiene. That's number one. Below that comes everything. So what do you have to do? You have to reimagine your business. So for example, I'm just taking OYO as an example. This is what they're trying to do within the hotel. Follow social distancing, proper sanitization training for the staff, disinfect the property regularly, minimum physical contact, which is contactless service, hand sanitizer or hand wash available right across, and using face mask and sanitizer for hotel staff. So the entire hospitality industry, in this case, I'm just taking OYO as an example. Same today, I saw Mr. Nakul Anand post on LinkedIn about 1 hour back. He again says the new service rules. Mr. Chand and Mr. Manoj, I wanted to share that. The only problem with that, and I wanted to actually put in a message for Mr. Nakul Anand, it is written in black color with white, and the text is very small. With my eyes are not as good, but I could not read it. But again, I think Mr. Anand is making a point for ITC that they are actually changing the way they look at service, much like OYO. So they are reimagining how ITC will actually be reimagined as a hospitality product, right? So again, I'm just trying to say this, identify, and this is, I think, what was being said, by Mr. Nakul Anand in one of the posts. It says first ITC Central. It says the program that you guys have come out with, it's called We Assure. It says it's a first of its kind initiative on health, hygiene, and safety. It's a program launched in collaboration with medical professionals and disinfectant experts. So Mr. Manoj, here, I just want to say this. Hospitality industry never ever intersected. So value, again, I want to say value is always created at the intersection point. Apple created value not because it was a computer, but it was at the intersection point of computer and art. That Venn diagram of computer and art is what created value for Apple. Now in hospitality industry, where will the value be created? Not by location alone, not by luxury, not by service. It will be created, all that will be in one circle. The second will be hospital, medical professional, and disinfectant expert will come in the second circle, and the third will be technology. And the sweet spot for hospitality will be all that was there, location, image, service, etc. Hospital and medical disinfectant expert and medical professionals and technology. That's the sweet spot. And if you don't reimagine it that way, then I think hospitality industry is likely to stay back, or those properties which don't are actually going to stay back. And the same thing, I think we saw it in the airports, right? So whether it's hospitality or whether it is travel, which involves, close touch is going to happen. So I'll just look at it. I'll just skip airports because of paucity of time. I just want to come back here again. How do you create a future? So in March, when there was large scale layoffs, etc., Satya Nadella was asked a question, Mr. Satya Nadella. He was asked by a journalist, Mr. Nadella, there is so much layoff is happening and there is so much pullback in investment. What is your strategy? Mr. Satya Nadella looked at the journalist and said, I'm not concerned about the layoff or pullback in investment. I am more concerned about the new demand created because of millions and millions of people going to work from home. I am more interested in looking at the new demand that is being created by millions of people going to work from home. What is the perspective? I have spoken to many CEOs and their perspective are very simple. They are looking at all the problem that they are facing. Whereas Mr. Nadella is not looking at all the problem. I'm sure he is also facing that problem. But instead of choosing to focus on the problem, he's focusing on the new opportunity that is created. The question before you is that if you want to create a bright future, then are you looking at the problem or are you looking at the opportunity? Because here, I don't have that slide, but let me just share that with you. It's called event, thought, emotions, and action. How does this work? And don't forget this. Event is every one of us sitting here on this webinar. The event is the same, COVID crisis. For a person like Satya Nadella, the event is, he's also in the same boat as us. But what is his thought? His thought is, how can I capture the new demand? Because his thought is, how can I capture the new demand? His emotions are of confidence. And when your emotion is of confidence, you give confidence to the team and the team acts with confidence and they succeed. Let's come back to another guy. COVID is the event. His thought is, यार मेरी कंपनी तो बंद हो जाएगी, मैं सैलरी कैसे दूंगा, मेरी इन्वेंट्री अटक गई है, मैं कैसे सेल लाऊंगा. What are his thoughts? Negative. And the moment you have negative thoughts, your emotions are of fear, of anger, of disgust. And when you have this emotion, what will be your action? It will defeat you. So this is yet another thing that I want to say, that problems all of us face. I think all of us face huge problems. But what separates those people are that event everyone faces, but what are your thoughts? If your thoughts are positive and you look at new demand, just to use Mr. Satya Nadella's term, then your emotions are positive. And once that happens, then I think you come out, you act with confidence and you become a winner. So here, I want to just share this with you. What are I had said 5, but whenever one of the other thing to create a better future is under promise, over deliver. So what are the things that we spoke about? One is consumer insight. For any business that you do, the future will be bright if you understand the consumer insight. Second is, if you understand the pain point of your customers, right? And come out with solutions to solve the pain points, either reduce or eliminate. Third is, business will never go away. It will shift. So follow your customer. Number 4, reimagine your business, like I'm saying about hospitality industry. Value will always be there. People want to study. They get value out of education. But the value has migrated from face-to-face delivery of education to online, right? Then look at the new determinant benefits that come out. That is what will be used. So I've already covered it in this thing. Second is focus on the new demand. Every problem that comes actually disguised as a problem. And if you focus on the opportunity that resides there, then I think you will be a winner. So let me just share this with you. In Chinese, crisis has 2 parts. One is danger, one is opportunity. And I think that is what sums up what we are in. COVID is a crisis. It offers danger, but it also offers opportunity. And like Satya Nadella, he chooses to focus on opportunity, whereas many people focus on the danger. Whether we create a good future or a bad future will depend on which part of crisis we focus on, danger or opportunity. Let me come to the second part, which is the yin and yang part. What does it tell you? And this is about life. Life is always about polar opposites coexisting. The good, the bad. The night, the day. Women, men. Right? Good days, bad days. Danger, opportunity. So wherever you go, you will always have life will be in polar opposite, and there will be a tension between the two. Depending on what you focus on the danger can increase or opportunity can increase. But you have to look at this very clearly. Even when there is danger, inside that, the white spot tells you that inside danger, an opportunity resides, and you can either focus on this space or this space. And when there are good times, the black spot is there to remind you that danger exists. If you don't reinvent yourself, if you don't disrupt or disturb yourself, you're likely to meet a bad phase. So always remember this. And what is our job? Our job is not to work here or here. Our job is to work in the center of this so that we straddle both this area. And lastly, I want to say this. This is a concept called return on luck. So here is Bill Gates. Bill Gates grew up in an upper middle class American family. He went to a school which had computers that time. He went to Harvard, which again had, large scale computers. You could use it anytime you wanted. He had access to popular electronic magazine. That is where he read about, which helped him create a program for Altair. And he also knew how to program in BASICs. Now, what is the entire thing? In Boston area, Bill Gates was not the only guy who had an upper middle class family background. There were several like him. There were several people from this background who went to that same school. From upper middle class, same school, many of them went to Ivy League colleges, Harvard, Stanford, which had large scale computers. Many of them had read that article about Altair, and many of them knew BASIC. Then why was only Bill Gates who became the richest man? Not because he got lucky, but if everybody had access to all this, how many of them disrupted their life plan and left food and everything, and they did not look at day and night, but focused on writing the BASIC for Altair? He was that person. And what is the entire thing? Thousands of people could have exactly done the same thing as Gates, at exactly the same thing, but they did not. And the same thing is true for us. Everybody has that same opportunity, but most of us just choose not to take that opportunity. And therefore, it's called return on luck. Lucky, we're not generally luckier. Lucky people are not generally luckier. They do not get more good luck and less bad luck. Instead, what they do is they get a higher return on the luck, making more of their luck than others. It's not that they get lucky. It's not that they get more good luck and less good luck. Whatever luck they have, they make the most of it. And the critical question before you is, will you get lucky? Is not the question, will you get lucky? But what will you do with the luck that you get? Today also this opportunity. Today also you are lucky. But what are you doing with that luck that has come to you disguised as a problem? And therefore I end this by saying, are you making your luck or are you cursing your luck? And in that, the answer to that only you know, and in that will reside your future, whether it will be bright or whether it will be non-bright. So friend, with that, I rest my case. I think I overshot by 15 minutes, but I thought I needed to take time to explain my point of view. Thank you so much, friends, for the patient hearing. Ram, over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh. Very, very insightful. I'm sure a lot of people, really appreciate what you shared with them. In fact, some of the comments are already coming in on chat. So thank you so much for it. If I could request you to make me the host, it will help me control the stuff better.
Yes,
is it okay if I start posting questions to you now?
Yeah. Just one sec. One sec. Where are you? Ram Kumar, right?
Yes. I'll just
make host. Sharing screen has stopped at the window. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Change host. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Raj. So one of the questions that have come in is, what should be the focus on? So a lot of the examples you gave was B2C. So there's a question on what should we do in B2B marketing during COVID times?
Almost everything that I said. What is the difference between B2B and B2C? What is the difference? There's no difference. Customer as a B2C, I have a problem at an individual level. There, the problem is at a company level, at a larger level. So you again have to look at what is the pain point of that company and come out with a solution which will either reduce or eliminate. Why should there be any difference between B2B and B2C? Second thing is that if you want to actually perform in B2B, then change the rules of the game. take B2C principles and apply to B2C, B2B. In B2C, there is personalized selling, customized selling. That is what happens to B2B, right? So I don't see any difference. You can look at every single thing I've said and more and tell me which is the one that you can't apply.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of insights that people can draw and use.
There is no difference. And the point that I wish to say is, please take this thing out of your mind, B2B and B2C. And let me give you an example. The guy who's purchaser in, let's say, ITC is the guy who's using an Uber, is the guy who's using Netflix. When he's using Uber, he gets dissatisfied if the Uber does not land in, let's say, 3 minutes. And therefore, when you are selling to him, he will get dissatisfied now with this lower level of service. So please keep in mind that you have to deliver that same level of personalization and customization and speed.
Sure. There is one question which I'll probably generalize, question around the magic mirror, but the question is more around the cost of technology. Like you mentioned that, you can create immersive experiences using technology. So there's a question around the cost of these technologies being very high. Would you like to address that?
I beg to differ. I don't think the cost of technology is very high. You take a look at it. Every single thing is called pay as you use. It's the Uber model. Everything, there are companies, there are startups who will actually give you a solution and they will charge you as you use. Just come to just one example, Netflix. Netflix does not have the server. It does not own any of it. Who does it get it from? Amazon Web Service. And it has not rented Amazon Web Service. It just pays it for what it uses. And Ram, the entire problem is that its traffic is high between 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. And after that, it is near zero. Amazon has not asked for a commitment. Neither has Netflix given a commitment of business. It only says that I will pay you for what I will use is what Netflix says. So where is the cost of technology? You have to identify the person and say, I will pay you for what I use. And don't get into hardware. Hardware is going to become redundant every 9 months. Your business is not technology business. Your technology is an enabler. Your business is not to get into hardware, software and confuse the hell out of yourself. Your is to actually harness technology and get people who can supply you solutions, not hardware and software.
Sure.
SaaS is probably one of those examples.
Yeah, friends, as I'm asking your queries to Mr. Rajesh, if you have any other queries, please keep posting them on chat.
Can I just say this? Doesn't Netflix have the strength of numbers? Okay. It doesn't have the strength. It does have the strength of numbers, but what is this called the sharing economy? What is the big advantage of sharing economy? Sharing economy is where you can contact and expand, and the service will contact and expand to meet your requirement. That is the essence of sharing economy. Uber, if I want Uber, I want for even half an hour, I'll get an Uber. And if I want for 3 continuous days, I'll get Uber. The service will expand and collapse to meet my requirement. Where does number come in? And these businesses called sharing economy is called C equal to 1. These sharing economy companies are built to provide you customized and personalized solutions, not look at numbers. The platform is generated to give numbers, but for you, it will give you customized and personalized service.
Rajesh, I have a comment to make. If you,
yes, sir.
Wonderful presentation. I think it went very well. The one thing which we are going to miss in this webinar story, I worked for 26 years with Nestle, and I think Rajshekhar worked for ITC for all his life. There's a culture which the organization, the people learn. Your example of Mercedes, having it in ITC at a cost, is not so much the cost, is the image which Mercedes carries as a product. And the employees who are working with has to carry that image.
Yes,
today, the biggest risk, in fact, I circulated that interview of Nestle worldwide chairman, Mr. Bravak's interview. He had 2 weeks of a COVID impact himself. So he was in the hospital and he is in the board of many worldwide pharmaceutical companies, and he came out healthy, all that. And he was talking about the problems post-COVID, okay? And one of the things he talked about that if the people come back, you can't double the space, but they will have to come back because otherwise the image of the organization, the organizational thinking, how will that work? How will we take the brand, which is, you know, the Mercedes or Nestle or ITC? The younger generation is going to completely miss that. How do you see that?
Yes, sir. So I had the privilege of doing a workshop, and I posed a question. And so please don't take it otherwise, but any one of you can answer. The question that was posed to the Mercedes Benz team is, our job is to sell as many, I mean, the framing is, my job is to sell Mercedes car, right? To the right target audience. Agree, disagree. My business is to sell cars, is to produce cars that can sell. Almost everybody agreed to it. And my entire perspective is rules have changed. Mercedes is no longer in the business of selling cars, they're in the business of mobility. That is the first perspective that one has to understand, that the nature of business has changed. Mercedes is no longer in the business of producing the best car and selling it. If it does that, that business is going out of fashion. They're in the mobility business, and that is what they've started looking at. That's the first thing. Second thing is, people working in an office does not give image to any company or any brand. In fact, if you take a look at Unilever, 15 years back, nobody knew that Liril and Close Up and some of peers and Dalda came from Unilever, because there was a branding strategy that was used. People just did not know about it, right? So my entire perspective is, people will not give image to the company. What will give image is how immersive experience and what a pleasurable experience that any one of these companies give. So if Mercedes decides I'm in the mobility business and it provides super mobility experience, so that at the end of the experience with Mercedes, they have a positive emotion, that is what will create image, not how many people work and whether they work physically. That is at the back end. This is what my perspective is.
So I will leave it at that. I still believe that the working with the organization makes you feel different. You learn the culture, but I also agree with your point of view, because in a situation today you can't change the things, so you have to live with it. But eventually people will have to catch up with the building of a culture of the organization, method of working. You know, the going to the customer. Yes, I agree that focus on the customer is anyway is been the rule for most of the organizations. But it's a thought, you know, because it's going to be a big challenge for industry going forward.
So my only concern here would be that we have to actually look at where the value is migrating. So if you take my son, sir, he does not know how to drive, and neither does he want to drive. My son does not want to own a house. So the new millennials that are there, so they are actually grown up in a sharing economy where owning a car is no longer a status symbol, nor is owning a house. These guys more believe in, you know, pay as you use concept, not even in rental. Rent may be paisa block ho jata hai mahine ka. They are saying we will only pay you for what I will use. So this is what I feel. So, but thank you so much for this perspectives. Thank you so much, sir. Feel blessed.
There is a question on what should capital intensive industries like steel, cement, etc. do? How can they use these insights?
Yeah, so can I share an example of another company where I have done? So they make turbines, without getting into the name of it, right? Of the company, where the capital expenditure is huge. But Mrs. Evak, again, just coming to this company, I've been telling them, I asked them, what business are you in? These guys are saying we make steam turbines. I said, what is it that where has the value of customers migrated? These customers to whom they sell steam turbines are no longer interested in buying steam turbines. They are interested in actually the electricity that it generates, power that it generates. And therefore, if this company continues to sell steam turbine and someone comes and offers power which you pay as you use, this company is going to go out of business. So the entire thing is, you know, the problem is when you say capital intensive, it's the way in which you have looked at your business. Say, for example, if Netflix had said that I need to have my own server, what would be the capital involved there? If Netflix had decided that every single Bollywood film they will produce, what would be the capital required? So there is a new business model that is coming up. And the business model is that it's basically an ecosystem. The new business model is about ecosystem where you have partners, and each partners complement each other. So if you look at the platform business of Uber, they don't own a single vehicle, not the driver. So they're able to provide you with transportation where the experience at the end of it is very pleasurable. Or take Airbnb. I don't know today, but their market cap was much bigger than Marriott, Hilton, etc. put together. And they did not own any property. So where is it? So I just want to share this one thing with you, and it's a very important point. What do these new age companies come into? What did they do to hospitality industry, Airbnb? They took their big competitive advantage, which was capital expenditure and location, and commoditized it. Today, Taj has, let's say in Mumbai, I don't know how many, say 4 properties and say 700 or 1000 rooms. Airbnb or OYO will have maybe 50,000 rooms. So the point is, capital expenditure depends on the business model that you follow. If you have a new business model like Uber, Airbnb, right? You don't require capital expenditure. And this is the point that I was saying, businesses will never change. Hospitality will always will remain there. But Airbnb has come out with a new business model that has put under pressure the traditional companies because they have commoditized what was still now their competitive advantage. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there is a question on the pay as you use model, and they're saying that the volumes may be the only way businesses can make then sense out of it. So what do then startups essentially do?
No, you have to ask a question because this is hypothetical. You tell me one industry where you want to. So you give me an industry where you think sharing economy won't work, then I'll give you a solution. Can I give you one example? I worked in soap business, right? FMCG, Park Avenue soap. Right, I can tell you. So the new idea is, so the entire issue is, don't sell product, sell service. Every single product will be sold as a service. Now take soap. What did I do? I'll just give you a hypothetical example. It's not true, but let's assume I went to Virginia House and ITC. What did I tell them? What I told them is very simple. Hypothetically, that, okay, I'll give you a Tata example, right? Not true, but I'm just giving an example. That they have, let's say Bombay House has 3 levels. One is junior, one is middle, and one is top level. So what did I go and tell them? You have restrooms and washrooms. In there, I will make sure that soaps never get out of, they never go out of stock. I will make sure that you feel fresh after you visited the bathrooms or washrooms. So in the lower level, I kept Park Avenue soap. In the higher level, I kept higher grade soaps, and for the directors, I kept a hand wash of Park Avenue. In the junior level, I kept a deodorant. After washing hand, you could use a deodorant, and at the top end, I kept a perfume there. I made sure that it never got over. Now, do you know how much money I made? Because I did not sell soap as a product, I sold it as a service. And these guys only paid for what they used. They did not have to keep any inventory. I did all that. So the point is that you have to reimagine your business. And if you don't, then these startups, let me give you one example of Mr. Okay. The name is Mr. KV Kamath. Before he went to China, the Beijing on this assignment, he was asked, I work for a platform called Founding Fuel. He was asked, what is the nightmare you have? You know what he said? He said, the nightmare that I have is my entire life's work that I have spent 30, 40, I don't know how many years, will actually 3 or 4 guys working in Navi Mumbai, working in a garage, can come and destroy and disrupt my entire life's work. And then he went to Beijing. You know what happened after that? Come Paytm, come Google Pay, come all this. They've disrupted the banking industry. Yesterday, my son, he got married, he was there. And there's Theobroma, a restaurant very close to where I stay. This guy says no physical cash, only Google Pay or Paytm. I'm just giving you Mr. KV Kamath. This is what he had said. That some 2 guys working in a remote corner in a garage in Navi Mumbai can come and destroy my entire business. And they did. Yes, sir.
There are a lot of questions that you have already answered in the session itself, so I'm not picking them up. Okay, there's a question from Yatanshu. The Park Avenue segment, you said new rule which you make is perfume, not deo.
Yes.
Centered in the market with that strategy only, but differentiated by coming with a creative advertisement.
What advertisement? They came out with, I don't have gas because this is India, value for money. But eventually what is selling now? Perfume. Deepika chahiye kya? You saw that ad? Eventually it is perfume.
There is one question from Mr. Rajsekharan. Why are people so tentative at looking at all the great opportunities that you are mentioning?
Why? Because fear, scares. Whenever you go to unknown, what is their fear? जब मैं deodorant को चल रहा था, when I wanted to reposition take Good Morning After Great Evening, where Mr. Rajsekhar and Ravi were the guys who did the carton. I was the first guy who said we will sell a whiskey which had low hangover. The president, whose name was Naz Roshan, unfortunately is no more. He says you'll get sued out of business. Right? There's fear, there's unknown. You put your career at risk. If Gold Ribbon had failed, my career would have been at risk. But I took that risk because I believed in it. And Good Morning After Great Evening sold 5 million cases. I made a career. It's just fear. It is uncertainty. It is protecting our backside. And therefore, what we do, why 99% of brands fail? Because we don't look at the customer. We are actually focused on coming out with a better version of a competitor's product. So we are blind to what the market wants. Market is a compilation of all customers. We are more interested in what the competition is doing because that is a safer option.
There is a question on the event, thought, emotions, and action frameworks that you mentioned.
Yes.
Is that they're asking, I mean, thoughts you are placed before emotions. So they're asking, don't emotions control the thoughts we have instead of the way around? And what is really need? I mean, is it like more about quality?
Let me just tell you, okay, the question is that there is something called a reptilian brain. So as soon as any stimuli comes, it goes to your reptilian brain. And therefore, good professionals have learned the art of controlling. That is what cricketers do. What do they do? Through practice, they don't allow their reptilian brain to come in. They have muscle memory. So good professionals, what they do is they don't allow their reptilian brain to actually take over. So as soon as anything comes, they control their reptilian brain through practice. And therefore, it goes to something which is called the neocortex. Neocortex is where rational thinking, power of analysis resides. So this is where thoughts get generated. And based on that, it comes back to emotions. So just let me give you another example. Pilots, what they are taught is in extreme cases where milliseconds are required, where safety, where you have to actually survive. In those circumstances, for that millisecond, allow your reptilian brain to take over because it's the best guide to save you. But once you have overcome that crisis, then shut that reptilian brain and go back to your neocortex, which is your thinking brain.
There are a few questions people had asked while registering also right now on the chat about being resilient. So they're asking, concept of return on luck is interesting. How important is resilience of the business?
Resilience is the most important thing, which in technical language is called pivoting. There is no company in this world which has started with one strategy and succeeded with that strategy, including YouTube. YouTube, the entire strategy that it started was it's called Link Up and Hook Up. It was a dating site where guys put up their videos and girls saw it and they started dating. It didn't work, right? Then they came out with YouTube. So Wikipedia, it was initially called Newpedia. So resilience is the single biggest thing which business guys call it as pivoting. Apple has pivoted many, many times. And it is one of the most important characteristics of any company, any individual. If you don't have resilience, you will break. What does resilience mean? It is like water. Therefore, in Chinese philosophy, they say be water, meaning be flexible and fluid. And resilience is, and may I just share this concept which is important, which is called anti-fragile. It's not my concept. It is that very famous guy who wrote Black Swan. Yeah. What is fragile? Fragile is the more you hit it, it breaks. What is anti-fragile? Anti-fragile is the more you hit it, the more stronger it becomes. Where is this concept? So if you go back to the Roman era, there are certain walls if you go to Rome. What you will find is they were built thousands of years back. But why do they still work? Because they were there to protect land from seawater. But the way those things were constructed was they took stone, they took volcanic ash, and they took a type of lime solution. What was the entire thing? When that stone was glued together with this volcanic ash and the lime solution. Each time the seawater came and hit it, the lime solution and that volcanic ash became stronger because there was a catalytic reaction that took place. So this wall was supposed to guard the land from the seawater, but each time the seawater came and hit it, the wall became stronger because the gluing became stronger, and that is what is called anti-fragile. So you have to create organizations today, not which are just get over COVID. You have to create an anti-fragile companies where the more you hit it, the stronger it becomes. So resilience again is an outdated word. Look at anti-fragile.
On the OTT model that you had spoken about, there's a question around. So what do people like PVR, etc., for example, who have already made a huge investment in infrastructure, etc., do in these times? Then what do they do?
If I were there, I would do a lot many things. PVR, say for example, I think there were 2 or 3 panel members here who spoke about it. So what is hospitality industry doing today? Taj is coming out with giving you outside catering. In the sense that kitchen will, like any other restaurant, give you food outside. There is another set of person in hospitality industry who's saying we already have a laundry, so why go to a laundry? Come to us, we'll give you the Taj kind of a cleaning. PVR we can come to in just a while, but I'm just saying, look at hospitality. All the assets that you have to sweat that asset. And we are talking of hospitality because many people are from hospitality industry, so they've identified the asset and they want to sweat it. So we can look at all the assets that PVR has and we can start sweating it.
I think we have addressed almost all the questions that have come. The others were addressed in your presentation. So before I hand it over to Mr. Rajshekharan for close, on behalf of everybody here, I really want to thank you, Mr. Rajesh, for all those insights. I mean, I'm sure people will really remember most of these. I mean,
hey, but I just want to share one thing with you. Hey guys, I'm a salesperson, so I need to share this with you. This is the book I wrote. All the passion that you saw is actually captured in this. So I only had 1 hour to share my passion or my learning. This book has my lifetime of wisdom in this book. Do buy this book, do read this book. This is a book that will not disappoint you. If you like this content, then you're sure to love this book. Do buy this. It's available on Amazon. It's my life desire. It's not that I want to become famous. It's my life purpose and mission is to share the knowledge that I have with the rest of the world. And if you read it and you benefit from it, I think I'll be happy. So it's available on Amazon, and I'll share the link with all of you.
Thanks, Rajesh. I just ordered it.
Rajesh,
Yeah.
one question.
Yes.
Not a question, just a comment. I was talking to you yesterday about what my daughter is doing in Toronto. How do you do online for pastry management and chocolate artistry?
Oh, you don't imagine. There is hundreds of ways you can do it. You know, now there is called virtual parties happening. The virtual parties, you know, I don't know if everybody knows. Can I just take 2 minutes? Because all of us are in that age.
Yes.
Me and Ravi share one unique thing. We are that parent. We have given our children the opportunity to pursue their passion and not what we think they should do. I'm from IIT, I'm from IIM, I'm a corporate guy, but my son is a stand-up comic. And he is enjoying himself. He's also a published author with Penguin. His daughter, and I remember it so clearly, one of them is in Toronto in this pastry thing that he mentioned, and another daughter is into dance. Can you imagine parents like us, what we have done? Again, Ram, where are you, sir? We have changed the rules of the game. We have not followed what the world is doing. We are not looking at what rest of the parents are doing. We are looking at what is good for our children. And you do not know how happy my son is. You know what? This book that I have written, he's already a published author and he has many TV programs, and he's got almost what? He's one of those, Twitter, whatever, that blue tick account. He's the guy who made me write this book. He's the guy who reverse mentored me on social media. He's the guy who told me how to do this. Why? Because we let him pursue his passion. And friends, our grandchildren and children, we have to let them do what they want, not what we think they should do. Again, the same thing. Don't be competitor driven what other parents are doing. We should do what we think is good.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajesh. I think it was great. I really enjoyed, and I am sure everybody, had a great time interacting with you. Let me also tell you, in the sense about the point what you talked about, which is basically run after your passion, and it is never late for it. You can imagine that, after retiring close to 62 years, 1 month back, me, Ram, and Anush starting this business clinic is running after something. So I don't think it's late for anything, and as long as you have the desire, you can fulfill it and go after it. Don't, keep your emotions happy and do it. I think. Thank you so much here. I think it was, and I would like to invite comments from others before we wind up. Thank you, Rajesh. And let me also tell you from Business Clinic side, for all the people who have registered for this, we will send them the link of your book so that they can buy it easily. Okay.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you, everybody, for your patient hearing. And you guys are so supremely talented, supremely experienced. But thank you for hearing me out, sir.
Thanks a lot, Rajesh. I just ordered your book.
Any comments from anybody?
Thank you.
Look forward to, really look forward. Great reconnecting, very inspiring. And I can see that this blend of corporate practice and teaching has created a fantastic, let's say amalgam of how you deliver the whole thing. It's fabulous. Keep it up.
Thank you, sir. And I look forward to meeting you when I come to. You stay in Gurgaon, or where are you based?
I'm at Vasant Vihar.
Oh, very good, sir. Very good.
Yeah.
I'll certainly make it a point.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. Sure.
Yeah, will do, sir.
Yeah, while we bring the webinar to a close, we can keep it open for networking. Okay. And anybody can have a chat. Let's do that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
so
Bye.
much.
Okay, bye, Rajesh.
Thanks, Raj, Ram. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All the best. All the best.
Bye.
Thank you, Manoj. It was a pleasure seeing you, and you are so colorful. I really enjoyed.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting you when you come to Gurgaon. I'm in Gurgaon.
Will come, sir. Manoj will come. And
Thank you.
I wish to be in touch with you for the insight that you shared with me, sir.
Thank you. I've already ordered your book, so I'll be ready by then.
Oh, sir. Feel blessed, sir. Feel blessed. Feel blessed.
Thank you.
Just on your book next time. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.